Ever feel like you're out of the loop on what's happening in your city? Like, what are they building over there? What are those new rules about? Well, get ready to be in the know, because today we are diving deep, deep into the inner workings of Montreal's City Council.
We're talking agendas, folks, the nitty-gritty of city planning.
And not just any agenda, we've got our hands on the one for their September 16th, 2024 meeting. But hold on, it gets juicier. We actually have two versions.
Two versions? Oh, this is good. It's like getting a sneak peek at the city's to-do list, and then bam, someone slips you an updated copy with all the scribbled notes and last-minute additions. You know things are about to get interesting.
It's not just a couple of tweaks. This second version is overflowing with new motions, contracts, the whole shebang. Clearly, something's got the council buzzing.
So before we get lost in the weeds, let's do a quick refresher. What exactly is the Montreal City Council? Why should we, the wonderfully engaged citizens of this fine city, care about their meetings and agendas?
Because this isn't some boring old committee meeting. This, my friend, this is where the magic happens. Well, maybe not magic, but definitely the decisions that impact, like, everything.
From the parks we picnic in to those bike lanes that seem to pop up overnight, even that new dog park everyone's raving about. It all stems from decisions made by the City Council. Budgets, bylaws, building permits, you name it, they're on it. So yeah, their work affects us directly whether we realize it or not.
Which is why this agenda, especially with its two versions, is like a treasure map. It's our guide to understanding the city's priorities, where they're spending our money, and what kind of Montreal they're envisioning for the future.
It's like a buffet of civic engagement. You've got your public question period where anyone can step up and grill the council.
Whoa, I love that part.
Then there are the resolutions from our borough councils, approvals for contracts and projects. They even dedicate a whole section to street names, which, let me tell you, can get heated.
Speaking of street names, did you see that item about changing Avenue Senecal to Avenue Senecal? Looks like someone forgot an accent. You'd think they'd have spell check for that.
You'd think so, right?
Yeah.
But I bet there's more to it than meets the eye. This is Montreal, after all. There's always a story.
And that's exactly why we're here. We're not just reading off a list. We're diving into the why, the how, the what were they thinking. We're uncovering the hidden dramas, the debates, and the potential consequences buried within these seemingly mundane agenda items.
We're separating the signal from the noise. And trust me, with two versions of this agenda, there's a lot of noise. Buckle up.
Okay, let's talk street names. You mentioned Avenue Senecal becoming, well, Avenue Senecal. Seems like a lot of fuss over an accent, no?
You'd be surprised. This seemingly small detail opens up a whole conversation about how we remember the past. You know, street names, they're not just labels, they tell a story. They reflect the city's identity, its values.
So it's bigger than just a typo.
Exactly. Every city has those moments in history, some more controversial than others. Correcting Senecal's name, it's acknowledging that history, respecting the heritage of the community.
It's like those debates about statues and renaming landmarks. Who was this Senecal fellow, anyway?
Hold on, let me check. Louis Adélard Senecal. Big shot back in 19th century Montreal. Businessman, politician, even a senator. Adding that accent, it's a subtle nod to his legacy, recognizing the impact of French Canadians on the city's development.
Wow, history hiding in plain sight. What else is lurking in this agenda? Oh, item 46.02, they're naming a lookout point after someone called Francine Lalonde.
Belvedere Francine Lalonde. Sounds fancy, doesn't it?
It does. But the agenda's mum on who she was. Artist? Community leader? Intrigue.
Time for some detective work. I'm willing to bet she played a significant role, either in the city as a whole or specifically in the Rivière-des-Prairies-Pointe-aux-Trembles borough. This is how we honor those unsung heroes, right? The people who make a real difference but don't always get the spotlight.
Adding Francine Lalonde to my research list right now. Love those little mysteries. Speaking of things we love, how about some art? Item 07.02 caught my eye. Seems the Conseil Jeunesse wants to make public art more appealing to younger folks.
And rightfully so. We're talking about Montreal's Youth Council here, the voice of the younger generation. They've put together this report, Montreal Public Art, Dare to be Youthful. And it's all about engaging people aged 12 to 30.
That's a pretty broad age range. Any highlights?
Well, they're pushing for more youth involvement, not just in enjoying art, but in creating and choosing it. Different mediums, relevant themes, shaking things up a bit.
Makes you think, what makes art resonate with different people? What makes it meaningful?
The million-dollar question, right? Cities around the world struggle with this. How do you create public art that speaks to everyone, reflects the city's soul, and ideally sparks conversations instead of arguments?
Not an easy feat. I applaud Montreal for listening to its youth. It's about making the city vibrant, inclusive for everyone.
Couldn't agree more. It shows that art can be a powerful tool. It's not just about aesthetics, it's about civic engagement, sparking those important dialogues.
Speaking of dialogues, let's shift gears to a more pressing issue. Item 20.16 really jumped out. The city is dedicating a hefty sum, $700,000, to support migrants. We're talking those with precarious or no legal status. That's huge.
It is. This money is coming from the Service de la Diversité et de l'Inclusion Sociale. They're serious about improving the lives of these vulnerable residents.
Makes you think, what does this say about the city's priorities?
It shows they're acknowledging the struggles. Migrants, especially those without secure status, face an uphill battle. Access to services, discrimination, the constant fear of deportation. By allocating these funds, Montreal's making a statement. Social justice matters. Inclusion matters. Everyone deserves support, regardless of their status.
It's a reminder that cities are on the front lines, dealing with these issues head on. Okay, ready for another topic? Let's talk about something that affects everyone. Mother Nature.
Oh, you mean item 15.02 in those flood assistance programs?
The very same. Seems like there's some concerns about their effectiveness.
Well, the agenda mentions adapting these programs.
Yeah.
It suggests they're aware of shortcomings, especially with climate change, making extreme weather events more frequent, more intense.
Floods aren't going away anytime soon, that's for sure. What kind of adaptations are we talking about?
Tough to say without more details. Maybe streamlining aid distribution, expanding who's eligible, or addressing those gaps in coverage. Or maybe they're thinking long-term, investing in infrastructure, flood mitigation, preventing the problem in the first place.
So it's not just reacting after the fact, it's about being proactive.
Exactly. It's the reality of climate change. Adaptation is key. Speaking of adapting, how about we dive into the future, the high-tech future?
You're talking about item 07.06, the city's new artificial intelligence strategy. AI running the city, what could possibly go wrong?
You've been watching too many sci-fi movies. But in all seriousness, it's a sign of the times. Technology is becoming more and more ingrained in how we plan and manage cities.
So no robot mayors taking over City Hall.
Not yet, anyway. Look, it's about using AI to streamline things. Imagine optimizing traffic flow in real time. Less congestion, happier commuters. Or crunching data to improve public services.
Okay, that sounds promising. But what about those AI biases everyone's talking about? Algorithms making unfair decisions.
You're right to be cautious. Ethical considerations are crucial. I bet that's a big part of their strategy, ensuring AI is used responsibly, transparently.
It's a double-edged sword, this technology. We need safeguards.
Absolutely. It's not just about the what, it's about the how. This
Yeah.
AI thing, it's a game changer, that's for sure.
It'll be interesting to see how it all unfolds. Talk about a whirlwind tour of Montreal's city council agenda. From street names to migrant support, flood control to AI, we've covered a lot of ground. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, my friends. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's take a step back and see what we've learned. Stick around for part 3, where we'll connect the dots and uncover the bigger picture. And we're back for the grand finale, where we make sense of it all. After sifting through the Montreal City Council agenda, I gotta say, I'm seeing our city in a whole new light.
It's amazing what you uncover when you go beyond the headlines, isn't it?
Tell me about it. So, big picture time. What does this agenda reveal about Montreal's priorities, the challenges they're facing?
Well, one thing's for sure, social justice is a biggie. It's woven throughout.
We saw that, right? Funding for migrants, that push for inclusive public art, even fixing a street name. Small changes, big impact.
Exactly. It all adds up. Montreal sending a clear message. Inclusivity matters. Everyone deserves a seat at the table.
And it's not just about playing catch-up, right? We talked about climate change, about artificial intelligence, those big 21st century issues. Montreal's not shying away from the tough stuff.
Not one bit. Adapting flood programs, exploring AI, it's all about looking ahead, embracing innovation, and facing those challenges head on.
It's a tightrope walk, though, isn't it? Balancing progress with preserving what makes Montreal, well, Montreal.
Absolutely. That tension, it's palpable in the agenda. It's a city figuring out its identity, evolving while staying true to its roots.
Which is what this all boils down to, right? It's not just about what they're doing, it's about what it says about Montreal's values, its vision for the future.
Exactly. This agenda, it's a snapshot of a city in transition, grappling with big questions, daring to imagine a bolder tomorrow.
And that, my friends, is why we do this. It's a reminder that we're not just along for the ride. We have a say in this.
We shape our cities, And in turn, they shape us.
So what's the takeaway for our listeners? What do we want them to remember from our deep dive into City Hall's inner workings?
Simple. Stay curious. Stay engaged. Don't just accept the status quo. Question it. Make your voice heard. This city, this agenda, it's a work in progress, and we're all part of that process.
Beautifully said. So there you have it, a glimpse behind the curtain, a peek into the engine room of our city. We hope you've enjoyed this journey as much as we have.
Keep those questions coming.
Yeah.
Keep exploring those agendas. You never know what you might find.
Until next time, stay curious, Montreal.